Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me here for another deep dive video on Ready Steady Strong. The channel did recently cross over 100 subscribers for the first time, so thank you for your support there. I do really appreciate when I do these videos that are about 10 to 15 minutes long and I get kind of 50 to 60 views. As a pretty small account on YouTube, I do really appreciate that. Once upon a time when I did those length videos, 10 to 15 minutes, they wouldn't really get any views at all. So the fact that there seems to be a bit of an audience, a couple of you listening out there, really appreciate that. So please like and share, and obviously subscribe as well. Share it with your friends and see if we can get a few more followers here on the channel. Now, if you ever wonder why my video footage looks quite old and quite grainy, it's because I'm using my old phone to film this. It's the only phone I have that has a headphone port, which is important because my microphone that I bought a long time ago has a wire. So I don't yet have a Bluetooth microphone. That's on my shopping list. So my new phone with a nice shiny camera doesn't support this microphone. So there you go, there's a little bit of inside information there. And speaking of things that are old, we are today talking about training in relation to aging. This has become a big topic lately, with most of us interested in learning how we can train in a way that improves our quality of life as we get older, and how we stave off some of the effects of aging, such as loss of muscle mass, loss of bone density, and overall difficulty with moving around, and health markers such as cardiovascular health, things like that. Now, most of my videos, we end up talking about how to apply training and how I train people for certain goals. So the videos tend to be focused around my experiences and my background knowledge. Obviously, I have a degree in strength and conditioning, but today's video is going to be different in the sense that I've actually had to do some rather specific research, and I will be putting some sources for some of the claims that I'm making in the description below. So if I make a claim about training in relation to aging, there's probably a source in the comments below, in the description of the video, explaining where I got that from, where I found that information. So we're talking about training in relation to aging, and obviously there are a lot of false beliefs about what happens as we get older and how we train as we get older, and about the effects of training on our quality of life as we get older. So we're going to look at that. We're going to peel back some of those rumors that you might hear, those myths about what happens to us as we age, and I'm going to give you some information that will help you train in a way that's going to invest in your long-term future and your long-term health. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about today is grip strength and mortality. So there's a lot of research right now around if you test with good grip strength, then the likelihood is you're going to live a little bit longer, you're going to be less likely to die of certain diseases. And I'm here to say that the way that research has been promoted on social media and the way that people talk about it, I think it's being interpreted a little bit wrongly. So essentially what you'll see on social media at the moment is people will be doing their grip work, whether that's some direct wrist work, whether that's farmers carries, or whether that's dead hangs on a pull-up bar. They'll be doing this kind of work, and there'll be a caption where they'll say, I'm strengthening my grip because that is going to help me live longer. That's going to help with my mortality. And I think that's a bit of a misinterpretation of the research we have. So these studies do indeed show that grip strength is a good predictor of mortality, and I'll reference some of the ones that I looked at in preparation for this. And they particularly show that grip strength is a good predictor that you'll be less likely to die as a result of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and things like that. But that does not mean that if you do extra grip training work, you're suddenly going to live longer. Like I said, this is a predictor of death by diseases, not death by rock climbing. So just getting stronger in your grip alone is not suddenly going to make you live another 5 years. What the research does say is that grip strength testing is a good marker of overall strength. So what it probably means is the more physically active you are, the better you have worked your body over the course of your life. That is probably what that is indicating when we look at that in relation to your mortality. Another interesting thing that I found about that was that some of the research has found that the grip strength is a good predictor of mortality regardless of body composition and muscle mass. So what that would suggest is that being strong, being physically active is more important than getting really buffed or really ripped. That doesn't mean you shouldn't also aim to have like a healthy body fat level and preserve your muscle mass, but it does suggest that you don't need to go full bodybuilder in your training in order to get the benefits of this exercise. So once again, I'll link some studies below on that one, but just take that research with a pinch of salt. Don't start dedicating a whole day in the gym to grip strength training, but make sure you are doing a full accompaniment of exercises, including things like deadlifts, pulling exercises, maybe the occasional bit of grip strength work and carrying work, but keep your focus where it needs to be, which is on a well-rounded program. Point number 2, we're going to talk about bone density. So bone density is one of those things that we lose as we get older. hence why we get more of an incidence of things like osteoporosis as we get older, which is a loss in the bone mineral density. Now, we often talk about how loading affects bone density and how strength training is good for that, both in the sense that when we have a weight bearing down on our skeleton, what we call axial loading in things like squats and deadlifts, but also in terms of the strain on a bone that occurs from a muscle contracting as hard as it can. So something like a bicep curl, where although it may not be the heaviest weight you ever lift, because the lever is quite long, the bicep pulling on the bone muscle is quite a good stimulus, hopefully for, stressing the arm bones and things like that. But the thing that doesn't get talked about as much is the benefit of plyometrics, which is where we're talking about jumping and bouncing exercises. There is a plethora of research about the effects of hopping, bouncing and jumping on bone density, and especially things like the bone density of the neck of the femur, which is essentially the part of the hip joint that often gets fractured as people get older and fall over and things like that. So performing jumping, hopping, bouncing type exercises is really important for that. Now, some of the studies that have shown really good results with that do end up using quite high volumes. So 5 sets of 10 hops each leg was what one study found. And that resulted in, I think it was something like a 3 or 4% increase in bone density over a couple of months. So that's really powerful. That's a really good effect, but it is quite a lot of volume. So what you want to do is make sure you build up to that gradually by adding a few extra sets a day and spacing them out throughout the day. Don't try and do 50 hops all in one go. Now, it would stand to reason that if you start doing plyometrics, jumping and bouncing while you're younger, that you will get some of the benefits earlier and maybe go into your older age already with a better bone density level. So make sure you're using those kinds of exercises as you're training now, and that's an investment for your long-term health. Another benefit of that is it will make you more explosive, make you more powerful, make you more ready to engage those muscle fibers when you're doing your full training. So using jumps just before you do your first main exercises of the day can be quite a useful way to do that. My next one, this is a real bugbear of mine, and this is to do with warm-ups and special exercises. So right now, it seems that everywhere you go on social media, someone will do a post that says, if you're over 30, you need to do this exercise. Or if you can remember the X-Men cartoon, you need to stretch before you run, or something like that. And there seems to be this implication that as soon as you cross 30, there are all these other things you need to do that you didn't really need to bother with when you were 29. And I've spoken about this before, but often when you see these really targeted videos on social media, the reason they are as targeted very rarely has much to do with the research, and in fact is more to do with people trying to carve out their niche on social media. And because, number one, people in their 30s and up tend to be more affluent than people in their 20s and teenagers, that's one reason why they're targeted on social media. The other reason, again, is because of the whole purpose of this video, is that training for your long-term health and longevity is becoming a much bigger thing that we're all aware of. So people are trying to target those people, those kind of age ranges with their content. That in itself is perfectly fine. I think that's a very worthy cause. That's why I'm doing this video today. But the issue with it is the way that people are going around doing it by suggesting that once you hit 30, if you lift something without warming up, you're going to die. You're gonna explode, which is ridiculous. So if you're, say, 34, which is my age, and you haven't trained for the last 10 years, you stopped sport when you were 24 or 25 or something like that, you had kids, you got promoted at work, you were really busy, and now you're getting back into the gym, then yes, you may need to take a little bit more time warming up, getting your mobility, working on key muscles and key joints. And to be fair, there's not really any group of people who I would say don't need to do this. I think this is still quite important. But if you've been training since you were a teenager, and suddenly you go from 29 to 30, you don't need to suddenly start adding in all these other exercises. So in my example there, the key component is not your age, it's how long you've spent away from the gym. It's how long you have detrained for, how long you haven't moved certain muscles and joints. We know that as you age, you do tend to lose a bit of strength and lose muscle mass, and maybe lose a little bit of mobility as well. But again, that's heavily predicated on you not doing anything. So I think that advice would be better phrased if it said, if you're 35 and you haven't trained for X amount of time, or if you're in your 40s and you're just getting back into the gym, because really your training history, I think, is more important than your age. And we're going to go on now to some other topics that look at that in more detail as well. But just bear that in mind when you see these posts on social media that say if you're 30 you have to do X, Y, Z. Don't let that fragility mindset creep into your brain. Don't let people tell you online that because you're over 30 you're fragile and you're going to explode. You need to phase yourself into exercise and gradually increase the challenge over time. But that would be true if you were 20 as well. And I know plenty of people in their teenage years and 20s who have injured themselves because of not preparing for a workout properly. There's nothing to do with your age. So the last point for this video is to do with your metabolism, your muscle loss, and how they relate to aging. So that's the thing you'll hear quite a lot, is that as you get older, your metabolism is going to crash, it's going to slow down, you're suddenly going to put on a load of weight, and you're going to lose all of your muscle and strength as well. And when I was about 17, 18, I was training in my local kickboxing gym with a lot of guys who were in their 30s and 40s. And that's what I would get told all the time, is that you wait till you hit 30, you're going to gain a bit of weight, you're going to, lose this, lose that. And to be fair, that did happen. I was about 78, 80 kilos when I was in my teenage years. I'm now about 105 kilos. But that's not because my metabolism has changed. That's because I discovered Papa John's and Domino's. That's because I started buying my own food and cooking my own food. It's because I went to uni for 4 years. It's also because I did, a ton of weightlifting and traditional strength training where you're moving for a real full range of motion with the heaviest weight you can lift. So there are a ton of reasons why I've gained weight. We also had a lockdown, we had like a year and a half of on and off lockdowns, I think. So obviously that led to a lot more inactivity. And once we came out of that, I didn't really see a major need to lose weight. Incidentally, I did lose weight for a kickboxing fight last year. But aside from that, I tend to sit now, with my lifestyle being the way it is, I tend to sit around 100 kilos. But that's because of my lifestyle. That's not because my metabolism has crashed. I am searching for the paper, which hopefully I'll be able to put in the description by the time I put this video up. But there are studies now that have shown that your metabolism changes by a tiny percentage every year past a certain age. It's not responsible for these massive increases in body fat. Same goes for muscle mass. If you train, then you can still get strong, stay strong as you get older. I've trained guys in their 40s that have hit sprinting personal bests that are better than when they were 20. I've trained skiers in their 60s who have hit like deadlift PBs, skiing PBs, and we're talking about deadlifts of like 140, 150 kilos. So not minor amounts. There are plenty of information and footage online of older people lifting really heavy weights. So don't let that cap your potential. Again, if you look at what happens to the average person as they age, they put more time into their work, they put more time into their family, and they have kids. They probably earn a bit more money, so they go on holiday more, they eat more nice food. All those things contribute more to your physical condition than, say, your metabolism or your age-related changes in muscle mass. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean you can do nothing. That doesn't mean you should just let go of everything. Because again, lifestyle is the deciding factor. So make sure you're in control of your lifestyle. Make sure you make the choices that are in line with your goals. And you'll be happy, you'll be healthy. Okay, so just getting a few things off my chest today. I do find that the topic around aging and the limits you have physically, I find that quite frustrating because I do think there is a lot of negative information out there and a lot of misinformation out there as well. And I think you shouldn't cap yourself, you shouldn't limit yourself. I want to be a strong old man. I know that most people I work with want to be strong when they're old. It is absolutely something you can do. So yes, train for your beach body if you want to train for your beach body, but also train for your old person body. Make sure you're working on your bone density, your muscle mass, and make sure you're just constantly investing in yourself. I have some elderly people in my life that are very active still and very capable and very healthy for their age, and even, compared to some people younger than them. So I can see the benefit of staying active throughout your life. It is really important. So make sure you look after yourself. Have a lovely day. Like and subscribe. Share this video with your older friends and your younger friends so they make sure they start training as well. And I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching.